All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to follow the money on what might be the single biggest bet in human history, the race to cure cancer. We're going to dig into the massive financial firepower being aimed right at this disease and figure out what it all means for the future of medicine. Okay, let's just start with this number. $140 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering amount of funding that's been poured into the oncology sector. It's a figure so big it's almost hard to wrap your head around, but it really represents this collective hope, this incredible ambition, and all the financial muscle we have, all pointed at finding new treatments and just maybe a cure.
So this is the big question, right? This is what we're really unpacking today. Where does all that cash actually go? By following the trail, we can see who's investing, where they're putting their capital, and which new technologies are getting the biggest bets placed on them. You could almost call it the story of Cancer Incorporated. To really get this whole landscape, you first got to know the two main players who are funding this fight. You got the high-stakes world of venture capital on one side and the established power of big pharma on the other. Think of them as the two massive engines driving all of this innovation forward.
Now, last year, something really interesting happened. The market didn't just dry up, not at all. It actually got a lot smarter. See, investors became way more selective, and they started focusing their money on companies that had already cleared some of the big scientific hurdles, companies that could show really promising and, less risky data.
And here's the thing, these two players have completely different game plans. Venture capitalists, the VCs, they're the gamblers. They are placing huge bets on brand new, totally unproven science, hoping that just one of them turns into a billion-dollar breakthrough. Big Pharma, on the other hand, plays it much, much safer. They're more like scouts, They wait, they watch, and they acquire the startups that have already proven their science works. It's how they de-risk their own innovation pipeline.
So, where is this massive river of cash actually flowing? If we trace the path of this capital from different countries all the way to specific technologies, it can really show us where the next big breakthroughs are most likely to come from.
And wow, when we look at the geography of all this innovation, the picture could not be clearer. The United States is, by a huge margin, the dominant force here. It's attracting more than 2/3 of all global investment. You've got this entire ecosystem of top universities, deep-pocketed investors, and huge pharma giants, all working right next to each other. It creates this powerful gravitational pull for both talent and money.
But here's the catch. Getting a piece of that funding pie is incredibly, incredibly difficult. You should think of it like a really high-stakes tournament. You have thousands and thousands of companies that enter, but very, very few make it to the final round. This is what the industry calls the funding funnel. So, at the very top, the wide mouth of the funnel, you've got this number, nearly 6,000 companies. Every single one was founded with a unique idea, a new way to fight cancer. It's just this massive pool of ambition and scientific creativity all fighting for attention.
But almost immediately, that funnel narrows, and it narrows dramatically. Out of those thousands of companies, only about a third even get funded at all. And of those, less than half manage to lock down a Series A round. And that's the first really significant injection of cash you need to scale up your research and prove your idea actually has legs.
And then, after years of grinding it out, after multiple rounds of trying to convince investors, the number just plummets to this, a mere 288 companies. That's just 7% of those that got any funding in the first place. It's an absolutely brutal journey, a true survival of the fittest shines.
So for those few companies that actually survive this brutal journey, what kind of tech is attracting the biggest checks? Well, one of the hottest areas right now is something called antibody-drug conjugates, or ADCs. The easiest way to think about them is like GPS-guided smart bombs for cancer. Seriously, they use an antibody to hunt down a cancer cell, and then they deliver a powerful poison directly to it, which minimizes the damage to the rest of your body. It's pretty incredible stuff.
And the excitement around this technology is it's off the charts. The total value of deals involving ADCs nearly doubled in a single year. It exploded from $23 billion to $43 billion. This is exactly where Big Pharma is placing some of its biggest, most confident bets.
So this all builds to the end game, right? For that tiny fraction of companies that make it through the funding funnel and actually develop a therapy that works, what does the finish line even look like?
Well, there are basically two main paths to that massive payday. The most common one is M&A. That's mergers and acquisitions, where a giant like a Merck or a Pfizer just comes in and buys the successful startup. The other path is an IPO, where the company goes public on the stock market. That one's a bit riskier, but it's also a potentially even more lucrative route.
And let me tell you, That M&A market is white hot right now. In 2023 alone, the big pharmaceutical companies spent nearly $130 billion buying up these smaller, more innovative biotechs. It's how they keep their own drug pipelines full of fresh ideas.
And just look at these price tags. The acquisitions aren't for chump change. We are talking about deals in the tens of billions of dollars for a single company. That $43 billion price tag for Seattle Genetics, a pioneer in that ADC tech we just talked about, that just shows you how incredibly valuable these breakthroughs are to the giants of the industry.
So, okay, we followed this incredible flow of money. What are the big takeaways here? What does all of this tell us about the future of treating cancer?
Okay, here's the bottom line. The money flowing into oncology is absolutely massive, but it's also getting a lot more strategic. VCs are still funding those early, high-risk moonshots. Meanwhile, Big Pharma is super hungry to pay a huge premium for proven successes. Hot tech like ADCs are acting like magnets for capital, and this frantic pace of acquisitions means that promising new drugs can get scaled up and distributed around the globe faster than ever before.
And that really leaves us with one final fascinating question to think about. In this whole high-stakes ecosystem, where will the next truly revolutionary cancer treatment come from? Is it going to be born in the lab of a small, hungry startup that's fighting its way through that funding funnel? Or is it going to emerge from the massive, deep-pocketed research departments of a global pharmaceutical giant? The race is on.